Okay, give me a second. Okay, I want you to stand right here.
Am I hitting the arrow or the enter?
The enter button right here.
Okay, very good. All right, so as that gentleman comes over, we'll get started. We're gonna go ahead and get started. I'd like to thank April for inviting me to do this. I really do enjoy public speaking, especially when it comes to pests, because an educated public, whether you're my customer or not, is a great customer, because of the fact that the internet's scary. They tell you things that are terrifying. So please always go to a professional, even if it's just for advice. Don't waste your time going on the internet, because some of that information is just somebody's opinion, which we all know. Again, my name is Joe Cavender. I work with Rose Pest Solutions. I've also done public speaking for about the last 15 years. I've done audiences for the University of Purdue and Kentucky University, as well as Chicago Public Libraries, Chicago Public Schools, and some suburban ones as well. So I really enjoy this, and by all means, I hope you guys get something out of it. And I know we got some audience members who didn't know we were going to be doing this, so please enjoy it too. All right. So we're going to talk about the facts and the law, and the law is the part you guys are probably most interested in. And that bigger pamphlet I gave you, that's the law. That is the law, word for word, from the city of Chicago. The other one is just information for your own personal information. Okay, so let's get started. So my goals for today is I'm going to ask and answer as many common questions about bed bugs. Bed bugs, by the way, are called Cimex lactularius. If you want to impress one of your friends, that's the Latin term. If you have a hard time saying it, it rhymes with Timex. That's hilarious. Silly word games, but it's how I remember stuff. I'll be talking about the laws and the rights as it pertains to not just renters and tenants, but also as property managers and landlords. If you want to ask me any questions, by all means, that's what I'm here for. Over by where that gentleman's sitting, there's some notepads and some ink pens. If you want to write them down, you can, that way you can remember at the end. I may give you guys some time in the middle to ask questions, but I want to get through it so that if people got to go, they don't have to stick around. And if you want to speak one-on-one, because maybe it's a private conversation, I'll stay as long as you guys need me to. That's not a problem. And I am not here to sell Rose, okay? I'm just here to give you guys information. I just happen to work for Rose, but I've worked for several companies. And my last goal, of course, is to watch you guys start scratching and itching, because usually that's what winds up happening when we talk about bed bugs. Start getting that itch on your neck and on your hands. So, all right. So, weren't bed bugs just a nursery rhyme? We all heard that nursery rhyme growing up, right? Good night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. But people thought it was just a nursery rhyme until about 20 years ago. Now we know. Weren't bed bugs extinct? This is a question I get all the time. Were they actually extinct? Obviously not. We're still dealing with them. Bed bugs decline in population with the use of pesticides like DDT and other organochlorine-2 insecticides up until 1972. So basically, we were using DDT up until 1972. DDT killed everything. Unfortunately, humans were among those, so that's why the government shut that material down. And there were other organic phosphates and organic chlorine materials that they eliminated. Also, the reason why bed bugs were thought to be extinct is in America, we had better sanitation practices and better pest control that helped keep the bed bugs under control in the United States, especially in big urban cities. Why did they come back in such large numbers? Well, there's several reasons why they came back. Again, the reduce of pesticide by the EPA, which we talked about. A lot of materials that were used then are illegal to use nowadays. Chloridane, DDT, and those are just a couple off the top of my head I can remember. I wasn't around doing pest control in the 70s, although I may look like I'm that old, I'm not. The lack of real conservative bed bugs. We thought bed bugs were gone, so people didn't care about bed bugs. They didn't think they had bed bugs. And here's the real reason why bed bugs came back as big as they did in the 90s. The opening of the Eastern Bloc countries in the late 80s. Remember Ronald Reagan? Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. Well, that wall came down, the bed bugs came running. and also the ease of travel to and from third world nations. Do you guys remember the airfare wars in the 90s? Yeah, well, you're a young guy. You shake his head no. I mean, it got ridiculous when the airfare war started and the Eastern Bloc countries became available for travel. To travel to a country like any country in South America, in Africa, in the eastern part of Europe, it was ridiculous how cheap it was. I mean, a one-way trip from here to, I don't know, we'll say Russia. Tickets one way were like $120 back then. That's nothing compared to what you pay now, right? Especially if you travel, you know that. And what was happening was those countries did not have the sanitation levels of the United States. They had bed bugs really, really bad, but it was an accepted part of their life. So when people started traveling to and from those countries, that's how bed bugs became so big. And where did bed bugs first start happening? New York City. Why? That's the biggest city in the United States. That's the biggest travel location. Then it was Chicago. Then it was Los Angeles, Houston, Detroit, all the hubs of the country. So people always ask me, where did bed bugs come from originally? Originally, bed bugs were called bat bugs. Yep, little winged rats that fly around. They're very similar in the appearance of bed bugs. Really, the only way to tell the difference is under a microscope, because they have really tiny hairs on their thorax. They're a little bit fuzzier, I guess is a way to put it. They used to live among prehistoric men inside the caves, of course. That's where bats lived. They fed on bats and humans that lived in the caves. Bat bugs still exist to this day. I've actually caught the pleasure, but that's because I'm a bug nerd. But I've had the pleasure of catching a bat bug. I wish I still had that sample, but between moving, I don't know what I ever did with it. Hopefully it didn't crawl out. So what does a bed bug look like? The easiest way to describe a bed bug is they're the same size, shape, and color of an apple seed. They're small, they're rusty red, and they got that oval shape. You can also see they have the horizontal ridges across their back. They have a large abdomen and a small head. Both of these, that bed bug, that's a female, she's fed. For her to be that bright, rusty red, she's fed. And of course, her food is a blood meal. But next to it is an apple seed. So you can see how, just at a quick glimpse, how you can compare them. Aren't bed bugs almost invisible? That's a penny. Pennies are pretty small. That bed bug, that's 5 different samples of bed bugs. Adult, that the male on the far right, the females next to it, a couple of juveniles. I'm sorry, juvenile, a baby. Babies are called nymphs, by the way. And then the egg. If anybody would like to, if you want to pass this around, I'd like this back though. This little puck, there's nothing live in there. But that's actually every size of a bed bug from an egg to an adult inside that thing. So no, bed bugs, eggs, anything about bed bugs are not invisible. They can be seen. Some more difficult than others. So how do we find them? We hire Snoopy, right? No, what we do as professionals, it's all about the inspection. What we look for are the insects dead or alive. We look for shed skins. They shed their skins, almost like a snake does. We look for blood spots and we look for eggs. So alive or dead. This is what we look for when we go into a resident's home. You can see in the one picture with the guy's fingers, those are live bed bugs in the seam of a mattress. To the right of it, or at least on my side, it's to the right. Maybe is it to the right? And you guys, that's to your left. Sorry. Those are shed skins. A bed bug grows, they shed their skin much like snakes, which we just talked about. But you can see the skin looks just like a bed bug, except for there's no body in it. Anybody scratching yet? Not yet, huh? We look for blood spots on linens and pillows. As you can see on your right, that's just a couple drops of blood, because when they feed on us, the blood spurts a little bit. Sorry. And then on the pillow, you can see it there. It's pretty obvious. And trust me, this is light compared to what some of the things we've seen. Here's the eggs. Are they invisible? No, nice dark black. This is underneath a sofa. Nice black background, that dust cover. You can see the eggs, you can see the shed skin, you can see the adult. Not hard to find. So where do I look as a professional? Oh, and let me tell you something about, go back to what I was just talking about. The reason it's important to look for all the different types of evidence is, as a professional, if I find one of those, I'm scared off the audience. Sorry, folks. If I see one piece of evidence, as far as I am concerned, the inspection could stop, because we're going to treat the whole house within reason for bed bugs by one piece of evidence, because bed bugs move, they travel very easily, and you may think you have them in one bedroom, but they could be in another bedroom. They could be in your living room. They could be if you have a den or a game room or whatever you have. So, a lot of times we do inspections and people go, "Oh, you're done?" Yeah, I found a live bed bug in your living room. We're done. Where do I look? So bed bugs are very flat. That allows them to hide in the smallest of areas near their food source, which in that case is us. We're their food source. They can fit in cracks and crevices thinner than a credit card. Actually, a business card, really. So if you could slide a business card, like say behind a baseboard or a crack in the wall, there could very well be bed bugs inside there. They choose areas where we tend to stay still and prone for multiple hours at a time. That's why we don't really need to inspect your kitchen, your dining room, or your bathrooms. You're not in there for 6 and 8 hours at a time. So bed bugs, I mean, the minute you walk out of a room, they don't go, "Where's my food?" and go chasing after you. They'll wait. So there's no need to go through a bathroom, it's a kitchen, stuff like that. So what we do is look at the most common areas that not only professionals, but managers and maintenance staff can spot quickly. This is where you guys come in. If you are a property owner and you have renters, you or your maintenance staff, or if you work for a property manager and you have maintenance guys, I'm going to have some examples of things that you guys can do, because I'll tell you right now, do not take anybody's word that they've got bed bugs. Okay. I promise you. I've had people tell me, "I don't have time for inspection. I know I got bed bugs. What are you going to do for me?" I'm not doing a darn thing, because I don't believe anybody but my lying eyes. I show up because I've had people tell me, "I know what a bed bug looks like. I've got one." And I've gotten earwigs. I've gotten box elder bugs, ladybugs. Every time I say, "Well, why did you think this was a bed bug?" It was on my bed. Well, your window's also open, so everything in the world's flying in and landing. Yes. So no, I don't take anybody's word for it, no matter how much they seem to know. There's always somebody that doesn't know exactly what they're talking about. So this is where hopefully I can teach you guys. So if you do have a pest control company you use, and one of your tenants say, "I think I have bed bugs," if you want to do the precursor inspection, you can. Hopefully it'll save you guys time and money. So here's some of the areas I look. In the bedrooms, the box spring. This is ground zero most of the time. If somebody has a moderate to heavy infestation, this is where we're going to find them. Why? It's hollow. It has that nice seam under that. In this case, the dust cloth is gone, which is great because you can really get a better look. But a lot of times it's right under that seam. I keep wanting to like point to it, like you guys can see what I'm pointing at. But that little seam there, they love to tuck in there. I don't know if it's because it makes them feel safe. They're they're out of the light. I mean, they're not afraid of light, but it just seems like that's what they like to do, be in hard to see areas. The mattress, they love to be in those little seams. That's a pretty good infestation right there. And you guys remember on the mattress, that old ticket that said, do not rip off due to law, rip that sucker off, because they love to hide in there. As you can see, those are scat marks. Those are droppings. The sofa, no different than a bed. Under the couch, around that seam, in this case, one's got a dust cover, one doesn't. If I'm doing an inspection and I'm coming to a renter, I'm saying, "Can you remove that dust cover for me? Because I really want to make sure." Sometimes people really refuse, and that makes our job hard, because it might only be 1 or 2 bugs. And if they've tucked themselves in under there, I can't find them. And if I don't find a bed bug, no matter what you tell me as a client, I am not doing the service, because I don't want to make a small problem worse by treating with a material that's not a bed bug. We all know roaches, right? If you spray pesticide on a roach, they scatter. Maybe it was a baby roach, and now I'm spraying material to kill a bed bug, and I'm scattering a roach instead. Furniture cushions. Here's a great place. On your right, you see that's the cushion of a sofa. Those little zipper areas, great place for them to hide. Again, it's a little bit of a tuft, a little bit of a, you know, an area for them to squeeze into. They feel safe. Great place to lay their eggs. And unfortunately, wherever they lay their eggs, they also is where they use the bathroom. So you get the little bloody stool marks. On the right, you can see between the, you know, the backs of cushions or the armrest, those are eggs, adults, and pretty much everything you can think of with bed bugs is right there. That's a pretty good infestation in itself. Furniture legs, how pleasant is that? Unscrew the leg, and that's what we'll find. They're not always out in the open. So we, you know, that's our job is to do that. So you guys, again, as property managers and landlords, be vigilant. The things you can find, especially when performing the pre-move-in and the post-move out. You guys do a lot of that, right? You inspect before and after a client moves in. These are the pieces of evidence that you could spot to detect if there's been a possible bed bug infestation or even just a light amount of activity. There is no way, this in no way indicates that activity is current, but by finding these pieces of evidence, you can now make the decision on calling a professional to confirm bed bug activity. So if there's no tenant there at all, now you don't have to wait to see what they got to say. You're being proactive, which when it comes to the law is very big. These are also pieces of evidence that we as pest control providers look for as well. Here's one of the things I look for when I'm doing the inspections. Do they have their own bed bug materials? Have they been treating themselves? Of course, if they moved out, they'd probably taken this with them. But even if they're still living there, if they've been doing this, again, they might have made a very small problem worse or spread it. Because now, although the JT Eaton on the left, that's an actual professional material. The stuff on the right, that's Hot Shot. That's Black Flag. That's Raid. It's raw chemical. That's all it is. It's not a good pest control material. I don't use it for ants. I don't use it for roaches. I'm sure I can use it for bed bugs. It's somebody trying to do what they can to save money, and I get it, but it's not good material. So you guys walk in, your maintenance guy walks in. Look at the ceiling. I hate popcorn ceilings, by the way, because everything looks like a bug. Every little shadow, every little bubble looks like a doggone bug. But we got to do our due diligence. They love to get up there, especially if the infestation is heavy, because what happens is the females try to escape the colony, the nest, whatever you want to call it, because unfortunately in the bed bug world, mating is not a voluntary action. Basically, the male bed bugs force themselves on the females, and it's a painful insemination. So if you look on the right, you see there's 2 or 3, but if you look on the right, you can see the scat marks, and it always collect. They use the scat marks are always in kind of the same area because it's also a pheromone. They're giving off a pheromone saying, hey guys, this is a safe place. So when you start seeing that, you know right away. Baseboards. So again, on the right side, you can see, in this one, there's bed bug cast skins and fecal matter. Again, the droppings. But on your guys' left, you can see the baseboard's pulled away. This I'll talk about that little credit card trick, or the business card. If you can fit it back there, there's an opportunity for them to fit back there. So this is something you guys can look at as professionals, especially after somebody's moved out. It's really important. Outlets. I've opened up outlet covers and went, ooh. So, you can see around on the left, or I'm sorry, on your right, there's just a little bit of droppings there. But on your left, down at the bottom, you can see a heck of a lot more. Paintings. People like to hang, I don't care if it's a poster, a calendar, or a nice painting. They love to get behind it, especially, again, the more a population there is, the more places they're going to travel to, because, again, the females are going to walk away, the males are going to follow, and they're going to start a whole new batch somewhere else. So we look at paintings. So if the people have paintings, or if they pulled their painting off, you could see where the scat marks are, or the skins, or the dead ones are behind those areas. Carpets. So on the right side, again, those are all scat marks, maybe a couple of dead ones there. But on the left, those are live ones. Pull up the corner of the carpet right at the tack board, and sure enough, you may find it. That's quite a bit to find under the carpet. That was a heavy infestation because they don't want to be under the carpet. That's too far from their food source. And then sometimes it's this easy. It's right on the furniture. This is somebody's mattress, or that's the box spring. And what they were doing is they were sliding in between the mattress and the box spring, so they're really close to their food source. They're out of sight, and then when they come out, they leave scat behind. And the reason they leave scat behind, for the obvious reasons we know why, but biologically they also do it because they can't eat another full meal until they've eliminated the old meal, and the females can't lay eggs until they've eliminated. So here's some things that you might not know to look for in an occupied unit, but I look for this. Tools of protection. You can buy these online, right? On the right side, does anybody know what that is? Have you dealt with it? It's really simple. It's called a climb up trap. It's a piece of plastic. I basically call it a moat. It has a very fine layer of some kind of talc. And what happens is you can see there's an inner ring and an outer ring. On the outer ring, if you find a bed bug and it gets in there, it can't get out because the talc won't let it get out. Plus the plastic is really, really smooth. What that tells me, if I see a bed bug in there, that bed bug came from away from the bed and tried to get into the bed. If I see a bed bug in the ring, in the inner side where the leg of the bed is at, that's a bed bug that tried to come down off the bed and tried to climb out, maybe because the food source hasn't been there for a while. So if I see that, I always ask, why do you have that there? Well, I think I've had bed bugs, or I've had them in the past. It's a really good visual thing to see. On the right side, or I'm sorry, your left side, you guys have all seen those are just bed bug covers, right? You put them on your mattress, you put them on your box spring, you zip them up. You guys zip them up. Make sure if your tenants are using them, they zip them up all the way. Again, if a bed bug can fit in a crack the size of a business card, you leave a zipper open a hair, it's going to get in there. Also, once one of these is torn anywhere, you might as well tell your tenant or your client or whoever it is, get rid of it. Because, I mean, sometimes people try to tape them, and I get it, we're not all made of money, but once they're ripped, the bed bugs are going to find the way out because that's their job, is to feed. But if I see that in the bed, I'll say, have you had bed bugs before? Now, I like these though because of the fact that two things. Number one, they're nice and shiny and bright white. One tiny dropping, one little bit of, the scat or the blood glows like, like the sun in the sky. So that's why I like seeing those. It helps. The other reason I like them is if you do it right and you put them on, a bed bug can live in ideal conditions up to a year without feeding. A year. If they put that on, you tell them, don't take it off for 12 months. To clean it, nothing. Leave it on there for 12 months. Because if there's any live bed bugs in it, I mean, could you imagine if they're trapped in there for 6 months? If they can get out, you're a drive-through, man. They're coming in droves. They're going to come feed fast. So by all means, tell them if it's on there, keep it on there. Even if it's dirty, you can clean the outside as best you can, shampoo it, but do not open it. So I like to have conversations with a client when I'm on the phone and they tell me they got bed bugs because, as I told you, I don't believe anybody. The initial interview is one of the most important aspects in deciding if bed bugs are present. Depending on the answer to the following questions, we can assess whether a client has bed bugs without even being on the site. If a client still insists on an inspection, we will still perform it because we're here for the public, for peace of mind, for the client, with permission from the licensee. Landlords and property managers, you're the licensee. So if it's a renter, I'm coming to you as the landlord and saying, hey, your client keeps calling me. He wants me to come out. Do you want me to do it? Now the ball's in your court. You may say, no, I already have a company I use. That's fine. But at least I've reached out so that you can do your due diligence. It's not my responsibility to get it scheduled. If you're a property manager and one of them reach out, if it's a condo, I live in a condo, by the way, so I know this personally. If they have a condo, they're the owners. It is not your responsibility. It is their responsibility because they're paying a mortgage. Therefore, the limitations a lot on the owner of the condo or townhouse or house, whatever it may be. Does anybody have any questions since I started? Yeah.
Do you guys offer a service, let's say for, you've got an empty unit and you've had somebody move out and maybe we call you and suspect that they put in, whether it's rats or bed bugs or cockroaches, where you can come in and do a remediation service and then give a certificate that you can say it's bed bug free. So when the tenant comes in and starts complaining, you say, look, it was bed bug free, but it was dead. you're living in Phil, it's not my fault you have 50 bucks now.
Well, I'll answer that in a couple of ways. We do offer free inspections. Our company does. Like I said, I'm not here to talk about roads, but since you're asking, we offer free inspections for all pests. Our inspections are 100% free. If we do find activity, we reach back out to you and say, yeah, this guy definitely had or has this pest. Then at that point, my salesperson will give you a quote and we go from there. As a renter, you cannot charge the renter. That is the law in the city of Chicago. It is your responsibility. Now, if you guys have something worked out legally that says if we find activity, even if they've moved in with them and you didn't have them in there before, it is still the landlord and property manager's responsibility. And we'll get into that when we get into the law a little bit. Any other questions? Okay. Ooh, wait a minute. I think I missed what. Can I go back up? There we go. Question 1. They call me and say, we got bed bugs. I say, why do you feel you have bed bugs? I feel myself being bitten at night. You don't have bed bugs. I can tell you that from right here. If you call me from New York City, I'll tell you you don't have bed bugs. Why? Bed bugs have an aesthetic in their saliva. When they pierce your skin with their proboscis, I always say that word wrong. The area they're biting into is numb. You will not feel that bite. I don't care how sensitive you are. You cannot feel it. It's not a mosquito bite. Mosquitoes don't have anesthetic in their saliva. So when they tell me I can feel myself getting bit all night, I don't think you have bed bugs. Still insist on us coming out? We will, because that's what we do. But we try and talk people out of it. So you say you're getting bit. Where are the bites on your body? Oh, bites are all over the place. May that be bed bugs. Why? Look at the size of us and look, where's that little puck of the bed bugs? He's got it over there. Think of how small a bed bug is compared to a body. Why would a bed bug take the time to climb up a mattress, up a box spring, across the bed, come to you, the very edge of your body, and then climb up to your chest and bite you? It's not going to, right? That'd be like us climbing, going to a big hill and feeding at the top of it. It's not going to do it. Bed bugs won't climb over your prone body. They won't, when people tell me they got bites on their back, their chest, their inner thighs, other areas that are not along the exterior part of your body, it's probably not a bed bug. Bed bugs come out of their hiding spot as you lie still and feed on your body in the area where your skin meets the piece of furniture you're on. You're laying on a couch, you're laying on your bed. If you happen to, I hope no one does, but if you have them in your office or somewhere where you're working, or if you're a guy who sits in your favorite recliner for 8 hours a day, first of all, I'm jealous. But second of all, they'll come feed on you. But again, they're not going to climb over you to feed you. So when people say I got bites all over my chest and my inner thigh, probably not bed bugs. I would never say 100%, but I'm pretty sure. We're far too big to climb over. What did the insect look like? I always ask them that. And again, I get all kind of amazing answers. I love to tell stories about some of my favorite ones. I've had a huge variety of answers. Some seem a little comical when we talk about it, but in many cases, it's due to extreme paranoia or mental health issues. I had a guy call me at 5 p.m. on a Friday. You knew it was going to be 5 p.m. on a Friday. I want to go home. I spent 45 minutes on the phone with this guy because he says he had a bug on his bed. He threw a glass of water trying to shoo it off. It grew 6 inches and spouted peacock wings. Yeah. First thing I asked for is, did he have a phone number of a relative I could call? You hate to ask that question, but there's no such insect. If there is, I'm out. I've had people tell me they threw water on an insect and it dissolved. If that's how we get rid of them, I'll sign up for that. That saved me a lot of money on pesticides. We've all heard this one. They're under my skin. That's definitely a mental health issue there. I've had people bring me in a bag of evidence. Open up that bag and there's nothing. I mean, I find rocks, dirt, fuzz, toenail clippings, and other things I don't want to keep talking about. Not a bed bug be fine. And they're mad at me because I'm telling them they don't have bed bugs. You don't have bed bugs. Be happy. No, I got them. I've been to 6 companies. You all say the same thing. That should tell you something. All right. In these cases, we might have to refuse to perform an inspection. and definitely not doing a service. Because once you start, the expectation is you're gonna help. I'll warn you guys as the licensees, and I'll warn anybody in the industry. Do not do something that you know you can't resolve, because expectation is once they've given you a nickel to show up, they expect to see results. And so sometimes you just have to walk away. At least in my case, I don't know about if you guys can walk away from a client, but you guys have to go through the steps to make sure that you're, protecting yourself. You may need to contact emergency contacts for assistance. Again, if it's a property manager or renter, maybe you ask the landlord, does this tenant have another person on their file that we can talk to? Because I think there's something going on here. I'm a caring guy. I'll talk to anybody, but I'll be blunt too and say, this is not a bed bug issue and I'm not coming out there. And remember, this is a litigious world. I'll tell you guys that, right? Bed bug bites. So this is my examples. So on the right, you can see somebody, it's toward the back, but again, it's along the exterior of the body. So basically bed bugs will feed across not a straight line, but a line across the sides, the hips, all the way down to the legs, the outside of the feet. The one on the left is definitely a little bit more of a bed bug, more of a straighter line, shall we say. More bites. Side of his face, side of his arms, a little bit toward the back. It depends on how you lay. If you lay straight on your side, fetal position, or even straight, you're going to get a little bit more towards your back. You lay flat on your back, they're not going to crawl under you. They're going to feed on you the exact spot where your body comes in contact. There's the ankle and there's the leg. How can you tell the difference between bed bug bites and other insects? I will tell you people right now, doctors cannot differentiate between a bed bug bite and any other insect. You just can't, because everybody reacts. I bet you if everybody in this room got a mosquito bite today, you'd all have a different size lesion. Some of you could tolerate more. Some of you will scratch it to death and it'll be this big tomorrow because there's just no way. Everybody, body reacts differently. We use the evidence gathered by the conversation, the physical proof to decide if they have bed bug bites. We don't do the phone call and say, is this a bed bug bite? I'll take a picture of it. I can't tell. I almost said I'm not a doctor, but I hate to use that term because even doctors don't know. So a lot of times people say, I'm getting bit by something. And a lot of times it's fleas over bed bugs. So let's look at the two differences between the bed bug versus the flea. Bed bug bites are painless. We talked about that, the anesthetic in their saliva. Flea bites are painful. Has anybody here ever been bit by fleas? I lived on a farm in Tennessee for a few years, and we had an animal get underneath our farmhouse, and I was doing this as a kid constantly. Bed bugs feed along the exterior extremities of the body, as we just showed. Fleas will feed over the entire body, but they tend to stay from the knees down because they hop. And they can't jump up 6 foot and bite you on the chest or the neck. But if you're laying flat, they possibly can. But most of the bites will be from the knees to the ankles. And with the bed bugs, we are the food source. Therefore, we're the host now. Bed bugs need a constant host to survive, or they'll go into, we'll call it a hibernation for anywhere between 3, 6, 9, even a year, months, up to 12 months a year. If they can't feed, they'll survive. Fleas feed on animals and leave the host when a warm blooded meal is no longer available. So fleas will feed on anything with warm blood, any type of mammal. Bed bugs, not so much. You don't hear a lot about bed bugs or dogs getting bitten by bed bugs, cats, or any other household pet. How about bed bugs versus spiders? Bed bugs actively hunt us for their food source. Spiders do not hunt humans for food. We all know what a spider feeds on. They feed on other insects, right? And we all know how they do it. Bed bugs feed on us for their food source. When it comes to spiders, we are too large, and spiders usually hunt insects smaller than themselves. Bed bug will actively hunt us. Spiders will not. Bed bugs tend to feed at night when we are prone. Not to say they will feed on you during the day. If you have a nighttime job, second, third shift, they don't care. They'll come out at 6 p.m., 8 p.m. while you're sleeping, or 7 a.m., 8 a.m. while you're sleeping. They don't care. Spiders create webs to capture their prey, and they will hide and attack as prey is in close to their proximity. So again, they're not actively going out hunting for their food. They're kind of more like, jumping on their food or setting traps for them. And bed bugs return to their food source multiple times. So as long as you're sleeping in that bed and they're feeding, they'll feed about every 3 to 5 days if the food's available. Spiders, if someone is bit by a spider, it's usually because they're defending themselves. It'll be a one-time incident. People tell me, I'm getting bitten up by spiders in my house. Nah, you're not. Spiders do not actively hunt humans. Because if there's spiders big enough to hunt us, again, I'm out. I'm going up to Alaska where they don't have spiders. So, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can be bit by spiders. Brown recluse and black widows are the ones you guys all are aware of. But they don't hunt us. The regular yellow sac house spiders are the most common in the Chicagoland area. They're not hunting us, but they'll crawl up on the bed. And if you roll over on them to defend themselves, they'll bite you. And if you have a lot of them, you can get bit multiple times, but it's never by the same spider twice. And other insects. So mosquitoes feed at night, but they will bite any part of your body. I'll have to tell you guys about mosquitoes. Bed bug bites may look very similar to mosquito bites because, again, you're piercing the skin, therefore your skin has a little raise to it. The welts get red, and the more you scratch it, the redder and bigger it's going to get. Ticks. Ticks do not bite and run. Once a tick gets attached to your body, it ain't leaving. We all have seen the pictures or watched it, or maybe you've had them. Once they bite you, they want to bury their head under the skin and they want to keep feeding. They'll get into your hair and get into areas where it's not easy to find or remove. Bites. Bites only feed on people once the original host is gone. For example, bird mites. I bet most people in here have not dealt with bird mites. Be happy. Bird mites are horrible because they're hard to find. They're hard to get rid of. Their bites are very painful. They'll shock you. And they can occur over the entire body and they feed in mass numbers. I had out in Batavia, we had a place where literally the birds in a tree had died. The bird mites were coming down the tree, across the sidewalk, up the side of the housing, through an open window, down the wall, across the carpet, onto this guy's bed, and was feeding on him all night long, every night because he wouldn't move out. And then they came to me and go, well, get rid of them. All I had to do was get rid of the bird's nest, really. I mean, I killed the ones that I could see. I followed the trail, but that's what it took. Everybody is affected differently, and sometimes the elderly show no signs of bites despite having bed bug activity. This is very common in senior citizen living facilities. People, they don't know they have bed bugs. I don't feel any bites, and they don't even have any welts on their skin. I don't know if it's because as you get older, your skin gets a little bit leathery. I don't know. I don't have a reason for it, but older people who have bed bugs in their apartments sometimes just don't know they have them, and there's no evidence of them on their body. But you start looking at the mattress, you see the blood spots, you see the live bug. They got them. How close in proximity have I been to bed bugs? I will tell you, everybody in this room has been within inches of a bed bug, probably. There's nowhere to hide. Bed bugs are part of our environment. They will be in the United States probably for the rest of our lives. Bed bugs don't care about your socio-economic status. You can make a minimum wage working at a fast food restaurant. You could be the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. Depending on what you choose to do when you're out of work, you're probably going to come in close proximity to bed bugs. Bed bugs have been found in roadside motels and 5-star hotels. I've been in both. Bed bugs have been found in taxi cabs and limousines. Bed bugs have been found in low-income rental apartments, billion-dollar homes. Section 8, goes along with the low income. Where else? Anybody want to guess? No? All right. Again, here's the hotel motel. Red Roof Inn versus the Plaza. Big difference, right? Public transportation. Anybody ever been on a bus? Ever? Yeah. CTA? Yep. Travel. Airplanes. I've been out to O'Hare when I worked for another company. I was treating airplanes for bed bugs. I know. It's an easy scratch. I told you. I get somebody. Hospitals. The place is supposed to be the cleanest and the most sanitary places in the world. I've been in an ER at 1 o'clock in the morning. Is that my fault? I apologize. I got But hospitals. Again, I've been in the ER at 1 o'clock in the morning because a patient came in, was admitted, and while he was in the ER, a bed bug crawled off of him. I had to go out there. not just the hospital, but the waiting room is also. If the patient hasn't been home, his family, especially if they all live together, might very well have them. Waiting room of any kind, hospital, just anything that has a waiting room. That's a real, wow. There's the OR. I've been in an OR before. OR, the place where you're supposed to feel the safest. I've had bed bugs in them. And it's not the hospital's fault. You can't control what people bring in. Then there's the actual patient room. Again, you can't control it. Sorry, let me, is that me? Yes. All right. Sorry about that. People. All right, entertainment venues. You ever been to a restaurant or a bar? How about a theater? Probably not since COVID. A lot of people don't go to theaters no more, but we'll investigate back to it. Educational institutions. I told you several of you, I used to do speaking engagements in schools. Why? Because my daughter went to a private school. And I went and talked to them and said, hey, can I do a talk about bed bugs at your school? They want to know, why would I do that? I said, because my daughter comes to this school and she better not bring a bed bug home with her. And I did a speech. I said, you don't have to tell them to talk to me now. Here's my phone number. Give me a call. I got 8 phone calls that night from people in that house or in that school auditorium who had bed bugs at home. So I'm hoping I saved myself and a few other people. Major colleges, dorm rooms are notorious. Public venues, some kind of theater, libraries, Chicago public libraries. I've been in every one of them in this city, every one of them. And everyone, and here's the real reason it's kind of sad is the homeless people, when they got nowhere to go, especially when it's cold out, they'll pop in there and they can't be kicked out unless bed bugs are found on them. So that's unfortunate. How about nasty old mean grandma's house, right? Friends and family. You know, you hate to think of your friends and family, but if they got them and you spend time with them on a regular basis, you're going to have them. I promise you. So that big packet, and someone just walked in. If you didn't get a packet, it's got packets over there. This is the actual city of Chicago law as it was written in 2012, and it's still valid today. So I want to go over just a few of the major parts of it. This is definitely for you. So on 12/12/12, the city of Chicago amended titles 2, 4, 5, and 7 of the municipal code pertaining to bed bugs in rental properties, multi-unit housing, condominiums, and co-ops. This ordinance defines the responsibility of property managers, landlords, and the renters of said properties. So I tried to highlight them as best I could. My printer didn't do it very bright, but I'm sorry, they're up here. I said that you had them, but every licensee, meaning everybody in this room probably, will provide pest control services when bed bugs are found or suspected on the licensed premises. So if they request it, you have to react. You cannot tell them no. Licensee must maintain the written record and receipts of service by a professional pest control provider. You cannot call Uncle Steve and say, can you come over and do this spray? You can't call some guy who knows a guy. I know a guy. Everybody in Chicago got a guy, right? Well, a guy won't work when it comes to city of Chicago. Records are to be maintained for 3 years. Licensee may not rent accommodations that have been found or suspected of bed bug activity unless an inspection has been provided by a professional, a pest control professional. I want to reiterate that. You cannot rent it out. That's why that other slide that shows you what to look for before you do the painting and change the carpeting, you got to look around, because if someone comes in and they say, I didn't bring bed bugs in with me, it's your word versus his. And right away, he's going to either say, I want to move out, which is going to cost you money, or I need somebody out here to do a service. Section 5-12-040. Every tenant must comply with all obligations imposed specifically upon tenants by provisions of the municipal code. And that code is 728-850. We'll go over that, but this is important for you guys. This is the tenant's responsibility. As I was telling a couple of individuals, people seem to think that as landlords and property managers, it's all on you. It is not. It is on you in some aspects, but there are things to protect you as the licensee for the tenants who do not cooperate. As I said, this is a litigious society. So this is also a way, as my potential clients, to protect yourself. And we'll get into that one in a couple slides. Or the next one. 728-370, amended from 728. No items such as linen, clothing, or furniture may be placed in refuse containers or dumpsters in a public area unless the container is being picked up as trash. So if you've got garbage cans in the basement, in the hallway, I don't know why you would, but I'm never surprised anymore. They can't use those because the bedbugs will climb out of that garbage can right down the hallway and they'll find a new host. Linen and clothing need to be bagged and labeled as bedbug infested. So if we know that apartment 3A has got bedbugs and you hire us to come out and do it, and we say the linens and clothing are beyond saving, beyond repair, they need to bag those, and with a black magic marker or however they can write it on there, bedbug infested needs to go out into a dumpster. It cannot be recycled, cannot be given to a Salvation Army, which kind of scares me because people still do that. Please.
I understand that the defense has that, and really good, you know.
For the most part, yeah. I mean, they're not looking to get out right away anyways, but the bag needs to be sealed. But that's why even if they can, if they're outside, let them go out into the alley then. But yeah. We're not allowed to spray linen into clothing, fortunately. 728-830, any rental unit that's found with bed bugs or if bed bugs are reasonably expected, the landlord must provide services from a licensed professional PCP. Again, Uncle Bob, he ain't doing it. You know, but my best friend, no, he's a good guy. He's a carpenter, but he knows bed bugs. That won't hold up in law. The service must continue until no bed bug evidence can be found or verified. That's why many times when professionals do pest control services, it's multiple services because number one, it's very rare you get them all on the first shot. But also after that, we want to definitely do follow-ups because the one great thing about the bed bug eggs, well, I don't know if it's a great thing, but for them it is, they're not quite impenetrable, but most of the common pesticides will not kill the nymph inside the egg. So they'll still come out. And it may take weeks before they hatch. If that's the case, they may be able to get out and start causing havoc. So really a couple, 2 or 3 treatments at a minimum is required. Again, all paperwork is required to be kept for up to 3 years. Landlords must provide a pest control service within 10 days after bed bug activity is found or suspected on the premises, or if landlord receives notice in writing from tenant. So if you call me, or I'm sorry, if your tenant calls you, you have up to 10 days to have someone come out and do the inspection and set up a treatment. And I would definitely, as a licensee, I would ask my tenant, you think you got bed bugs? Can you send me an email? Because that's proof that they said it. If they just call you on the phone, it's he said, she said. Get it in writing. Same one continued. A landlord of a rental property may not terminate a lease. That's the question that young man was asking. A landlord of a rental property may not terminate a lease, increase rent, decrease services, or threaten to sue when a bed bug complaint has been issued. If the tenant even goes to media or a community organization, requested pest control service for bed bugs, or testify in court against the landlord. Any of these reasons, you cannot kick somebody out or raise their rent. It's the law. And when bed bugs first became a big issue in Chicago, people were getting evicted left and right. That's why 12-12-12 came in, because some cases, even if it's their fault, that's why it's hard to be a landlord or a property manager, and I get it. 728-840, condos and co-op buildings shall prepare a pest management plan for detection, inspection, and treatment of bed bugs in the building. The plan and records will be maintained on the property or property management office for 3 years and be available to health department officials and city officers. But basically what it is if you have a hired pest control professional, you need to sit down with them and say, we need a plan of action. If my tenant calls and says they have bed bugs, these are the steps we're going to do. And you have to have that in writing, because if the health department comes in or a city official says, I want to see it, it needs to be clear and concise. Okay. And you have to keep it. And every 3 years, it needs to be renewed. It may just be the same thing. All you got to do is change the date, but it does need to be renewed. Do you have a question?
Yeah,
Just bed bugs. This is just bed bugs. 728,850. Tenants have the responsibility to notify landlords in writing within 5 days after bed bugs are found or if there's a reasonable suspicion of activity. Okay, so this is where they're responsible. They can't wait 2 months and go, I've had bed bugs for 2 months. You didn't know. So they can go to litigation all they want. First thing a lawyer's going to say is, when did you first have suspicion and when did you let them know? Tenants shall cooperate with the landlord in the control treatment. That includes not interfering with inspections and treatments. You would not believe how many people have bed bugs. One is there and all they want to do is be in the way. I mean, it's really simple. They don't want to leave their house. No, you have to leave the house. I want to watch. I want to make sure you're not stealing from me. Hey, I'll call you before I leave. Get out. No, have a good day, sir. And I'm walking out the door. We do not want people standing over us because, number one, material we use is not so dangerous that you can't breathe it in. If that was the case, I'd have been dead a long time ago. But we just don't know it. Allergies appear every day. I don't want to be the first guy to have someone get massively sick due to a pesticide for bed bugs illness, or God forbid a kid. Get out of your apartment until I get back. Especially if you're the landlord, I'm gonna tell them to get out, or I'm walking away. If you own the place, I'm gonna tell you the same thing. Get out or I'm leaving. Or they always want to tell you, well, I saw them all over here. That's fine, we're doing the whole place. I don't want the back bedroom done. No, we're doing the whole place. Tenant must grant access to the rental unit once written notice has been provided for the purpose of bed bug service. Again, I tell the landlord, property manager, we'll be there between 8 and 9 a.m. And it's agreed upon by the tenant. Fantastic. I show up at 8:05, they're not ready to go. They got about 5 minutes. I got to feed grandma. I got to shower and get dressed. No, you knew I was coming. You got to get out because you're not my only client for the day, I'm sure. And I will call you, the tenant, the landlord or the property manager and say, he's being uncooperative. I'll send you a report that says that. Now you have it in your file. And trust me, everything we do, even if we don't do a service, you're getting a report saying we didn't do the service and why. Tenant must make the necessary preparations. Almost every pest control company has a prep sheet that they will email the licensee and say, make sure they followed it. That's why when people say, I do the inspection, can you be here tomorrow? No, because you can't do all this in a day. Unless you got one of those really, really small like YMCA type of apartments, you can't do all that. Tenant must dispose of personal property deemed not treatable. That's a decision up to me. I have never told somebody you got to get rid of that mattress or box spring, and I've seen some pretty bad ones. But I feel I can treat every one of them and at least kill the bugs. It may look like a mess, but I feel, I can take care of it. But if I tell you, no, this is just beyond control, if I put that in writing, I let you know, you have to tell that tenant, it's got to go. And I know it's hard. It's furniture's not cheap. Even if you buy it secondhand. Ugh, secondhand furniture. That's terrible, man. But people don't have money sometimes. And that's why I always try to save the furniture as best I can. All disposed items need to be wrapped before moving through public areas. That's kind of funny, but you see people, mattress and box springs with bed bug stains all over, walking down your hallway. Well, guess what? Every time they shake that thing, stuff's falling off. God forbid it's an egg or a living adult. They got to wrap it up. Plastic wrap, saran wrap, I don't care what they use. Got to wrap it up before they take it down the hallway. So that's why, in my opinion, it's really important. If you have maintenance guys, they're there to observe this. 728,900. There are penalties for violation of the codes. Goes back to you guys. Failure to abide by this code will result in a fine between $300 and $500 first violation. Your tenant calls you and says, I've got bed bugs, and you don't get someone out there within 10 days, $300 to $500 fine. Second violation will result in a fine between $500 and $1,000. That's within 1 year. So if they called on January 1st and come January 1st next year, you're still not working with them, you now could be fined $1,000. And oh, by the way, every day after the initial call, that violation is considered separate. So they call today, tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, each one of those is a separate violation. That can get costly really fast. Yes, sir. Okay, good question. I'm sorry. It is on our prep sheet, but yeah, besides people, you got to get the animals out. Nothing living except for a plant can be in there. I know you can't take fish out, so all we do is when it comes to fish, we ask you to unplug the wherever that keeps the water moving and cover it with a towel. And we're not going to be spraying up high where stuff should fall into the fish tank anyways. But yeah, we ask you to do all that just to protect your fish. Even lizards. You got iguanas, man. Almost every pesticide we use says birds, reptiles, and fish are the first things to die on any pesticide. So we say get them out. And if we show up and they're not out, we're out. Good question. Thank you, sir. So in summary, bed bugs are everywhere, ladies and gentlemen, and will continue to be a part of our daily environment. As landlords and property managers, a lot of responsibility is placed on you to help maintain bed bug-free living quarters. Tenants also have the responsibility, or have a responsibility, so use the ordinance in your favor for those who are uncooperative. The most important aspect of relationship between pest control providers and property owners is the response. Once you start responding, you're kind of freeing yourself from litigation to a point. By responding in a timely manner, you have shown reasonable care and have protected yourself and have protected the tenants. Open up to any and all questions. Again, if it's a personal question, I'll be here for as long as you need me. If it's a question about anything we talked about, I'll go ahead.
All right, talk about it. First off, you have a monthly service that would actively protect the owner, the landlord.
Our company does, yes, sir.
So if we're offering that and a tenant still says they have net problems, what is our, when or is there a responsibility to the tenant?
If they're saying they still have them and we find proof of it, now, again, it's all based on proof. We can't just take their word for it. Because some people, once they have them once, for the next 6 months, they got the itchies, right? They got the creepy crawlies. Sometimes they think they have them and they don't. We need to come in and do a full inspection at no additional charge and proof. I always tell the tenants, catch me a sample, put it on a piece of tape, put it in a pill bottle, give me something to prove it. If that's the case, we're missing something. That's back on us. But you've responded.
You mentioned something about getting rid of the pest material like clothing, and I need clarification on that. When are they responsible for? Look, this can't stay in the completely invested.
They're responsible once I tell them it's got to go. Once I'm as a professional, I come to you and say, I told your tenant this, now I'm telling you. This stuff is so highly infested, I don't think I can reasonably solve the problem, or at least in a reasonable time. If they don't want to get rid of it, I'm gonna have to charge you to keep coming back. It's in writing, and I've told you, it's now the tenant's responsibility. Now, again, usually with clothing, we don't have to get rid of it, because if you put clothing and linen in high heat for 20-25 minutes at a temperature of 125 degrees Fahrenheit, that will kill all levels of bed bugs from the egg to the adult. But you don't usually find a lot of bed bug activity on clothing, on furniture, linens. Usually you find it when they're living kind of in a hoarding situation, or there's quite blunt, they're just slobs, and they've got bed bugs, they got piles of clothing on the floor. I'm not going through their clothing. So we asked them, hey, since I'm kicking you out of your apartment, can you go to the laundromat, throw them all in the dryer? They don't have to be washed. If you want to wash them, great. The dryer, the high heat does more for getting rid of the bed bugs than the water. If anything, the water just gives them a bath. So get a high heat. If you have a laundry facility in your building, hopefully you don't mind them using it. If you do mind it, tell them to go down to the laundromat down the street. That's what they're there for. But high heat, and again, that's on the prep sheet that we hand out. High heat for about 25 minutes at 125 degrees minimum Fahrenheit.
I would assume that the city code is activated by the tenant.
In what regards? That's where it starts. If the tenant complains to you, you have 10 days to react.
And if we want to be proactive in this quote unquote litigation or action by the tenant, how is that possible? Who would we call as landlords and owners to say, no, this tenant is living in squalor. I'm continually having to call out pest control.
Sure.
And I can't control it.
The first thing I would say is whoever your company's lawyer is, and I would have no objection, you calling your own health department and say, listen, This is why you keep all those reports for 3 years, right? Look, the guys have been out here 6 months. They're saying they're not finding any more activity, or maybe they are, because, and you bring up a really great point. Sometimes the problem isn't that we're not getting rid of them. They're being reintroduced. That goes back to visiting evil grandma or visiting, some people work at a place that has bed bugs and every day they bring them home. Just like there's a lot of apartment building people live in not the cleanest restaurants. They got roaches. They bring roaches back with them. Well, it's really important that we understand that there's a difference between a 1 or 2 being reintroduced or an infestation not being cured. But yeah, talking to your legal team or even calling the health department yourself and say, I just want to start with this. And of course, as your pest control provider, if we are contracted with you, most of them will be there for you.
So from the standpoint, if I heard you right, correct me if I'm wrong, they'll live anywhere
For the most part,
and they'll bite you anytime, day or night.
as long as you're prone still.
So why are they called pets?
Because where are you laying prone most for the longest period of time?
Is it then by nature where you spend a large amount of time, your scent, your heat is what's attracting you?
Yes, for the most
So
part.
if you're sleeping on the couch every night.
Right.
Or spending.
If you are-
10 hours in your lounge
Yeah.
chair, that's where they're gonna be.
What happens a lot of times, people originally will have them in their bed. They'll go, well, I'm not sleeping in that room no more. I'm gonna go sleep on the sofa. And then 3 weeks later, they're like, they're on my couch. They're spreading. Or like hotels. I had a really big litigation with a hotel one time. We weren't doing the job in their eyes because they had a bed bug in room 1004 and then down at 301. I'm telling the guy, sir, your bed bugs did not go down 7 floors across the building. They're being brought in. They're not going to travel quite that far. Bed bugs can travel approximately 60 linear feet a day. So it's a good distance for their size, but it's not a building. So yeah. But if you leave that bedroom and don't go back to it, they're going to find you because they're out looking for that food source.
So as landlords, what would you say would be the top 3 preventative measures that we could take?
Well, doing your own inspections and hiring a professional either at the time of activity or, like I said, a lot of companies nowadays, we used to not do this, but a lot of companies nowadays will do a monthly or quarterly program where they come out and they do a proactive free treatment. It's not as heavy of a treatment because we're hoping it's just enough material to solve the problem, but the service is usually guaranteed, which means, hey, you guys come out every month or every quarter, you do my treatment, but the tenant all of a sudden is saying they're having activity. Okay, let's go through the evidence, let's have the conversation, and if we find proof of it, you get more treatments. Oops. Yes, sir.
If one has it, is a good suggestion to also do all the surrounding ones?
Well, we do what's called clover leafing. So if the unit right in the middle, remember the old Brady bunch with the 9 windows? If the one in the middle has them, we always recommend inspecting some of the surrounding ones. Now, every company is different. Some charge a little bit for that. Some of them will do it, depending on if you take the service for the middle one. But yeah, it's definitely recommended. Here's the problem though. There's a difference between condo owners and renters. Renters, if you own the building, they can't say no. You're the landlord, you own it. I need you to let pest control guy in to check all these units. Condos, they could say, take a hike. And we can't force that because they own their property. So that's where, as a property manager, you might want to have a conversation, but it's an uncomfortable conversation because you don't want your other tenants to know somebody in the building has bed bugs. But as I've always felt, I'd rather know and be ready for it than be surprised, You had a question, ma'am? The best thing you can do is, if you're uncomfortable, when you get home, go through your purse, go through your suitcase or bags, things of that nature. Because again, by the time you've gotten on a bus and gotten home, they haven't traveled so deep that you're not going to find them. Here's a nice little tip. If you're doing traveling, you go to a hotel or a motel, put your bags in the bathroom. Don't put them next to the bed. Don't put them on the bed. Put them in the bathroom. Leave them there the whole time you're there. Again, bed bugs don't go to the bathroom areas because we're not there, but hopefully 15 minutes, half hour, however long it takes you to get ready. Check your bed, flip the mattress, flip the box spring a little bit. Look at the quarters. But yeah, all you can do is be vigilant. There's nothing you can really do. Like I said, there's no spray you can buy to deflect them. Nothing like that. Yes, sir.
No, I mean, the only thing I can tell you is if you have a tenant and they have rodents, they can go to the health department and complain, but it is not the city ordinance. This ordinance is just for bed bugs. But yeah, any type of pest activity, you'll be, in one way or another, you are responsible. But in that case, you might be able to get away with having Uncle Vito to take care of it. Maybe, I don't know. Sir. Right. Sure. I've done just about every type of treatment there is. There's chemical treatment. The treatment we use is not even a chemical, it's a natural fungus. So it doesn't affect people whatsoever. It's not a fungus that harms us, but it does kill bed bugs. There's also a heat treatment, there's a cold treatment, there's steam treatments, which is a joke. Sorry. And there's also alcohol treatment. Here's here, in my opinion, the best one is still the chemical or the one we use, the fungus. I think of those as the same. They're both liquid because there's residual. That's what you need. You need residual. I can guarantee you 99 out of 100 times you will not solve the problem in one treatment. You need that residual because something that's tucked away at a spot that maybe we didn't treat because it's not a normal spot for them. Maybe they were hiding up under the nightstand, right? We're not flipping your nightstand over. We're trying to get around the nightstand, but we're not flipping your furniture over. So if one is underneath there, if the material has a residual, when it comes out and goes toward your bed or goes toward a baseboard, the material is still there. Heat treatment is very effective. It's also one of the costliest. It literally, if I treat a 2-bedroom apartment, and I'm just throwing a number out there because don't go by this number for any reason because of the fact that it depends on the amount of activity and how big the unit is. But let's just say we do a unit for $700. That same treatment for a heat treatment, double that minimum. Because it's very labor intensive heat treatment. And it takes a lot longer. It'll take a full day, basically. So you're going to be a tenant out of his apartment for 8 to 10 hours. And sometimes we have to go back 2 days in a row if it's a house. And then after all that, you might still have to come back and spray, give him some residual. So I would go with the basic chemical or the fungus treatment or heat treatment. Cold treatment, you can't get the cold treatment in the unit. You have to actually either take it to a facility that will do it, or you have to have it tented. And I don't mean tented like the old turbine treatments, which they don't do in Illinois. But there's certain tent that you put a cold in, and you put pieces of furniture one at a time. So that's not really feasible for you guys. The steam treatment, again, there's no residual. You see a bed bug, you hit it with steam, that bed bug is dead. The one 3 feet from it, he's laughing at the other one. Right? And the same thing with the alcohol treatment. There's no residual. You spray some alcohol, you rub some alcohol, you might kill the one that comes across in 30 seconds. Alcohol dehydrates pretty darn fast. You can't kill them all that way. Okay? Yeah, go ahead. There are bed bug dogs. People have been doing this now for close to 30 years. They're trained dogs where their entire job is to sniff out live bed bugs. If they're good bed bug dogs, if there's a dead bed bug, they go right past it. They don't care. Which sometimes is a good thing. If it's a place that's had activity multiple times, we don't want them finding dead bed bugs. But if it's a place that's never had a treatment, we do want to know if there's dead bed bugs, because that means there's probably a live bed bug somewhere. But yes, but bed bugs for the dog itself is very expensive. And I don't know what they charge normally because it varies very much. I used to have a contract with a bed bug dog. He was out of Des Plaines. Great little dog. You wouldn't think nothing of, and the dog would just go running through the house, and he'd find them like crazy. But you know, multi-unit housing, if you got a big apartment complex, there's really nothing wrong with that. Especially like some companies will do it on an annual basis. Well, they'll go through every unit. That way they can be in front of it before it becomes an explosion. Sir.
Second question based off of like liability. So, well, let's say there's an incident that's reported on that tenant. Come in, you show up and tell the tenant, say, you know, you have to throw away this, you know, piece of, you know, this T-shirt or something, right? And they don't comply. So, if they don't comply, there's a record of that. I just want to clarify that. Does that free the landlord from any further liabilities?
I wouldn't say automatically. Again, keeping the paperwork. going to them and saying, listen, you could see the filth from the bed bugs. You could see all the activity. We're really thinking you need to get rid of some of this stuff, especially like if it's a hoarder situation. If they don't comply, then I would go talk to my legal team. Doesn't mean you're gonna win that one, but at least you're getting in front of it and, you're doing everything you can. And that's the biggest thing is the response. If people complain more about not getting a response than they do about what the response is. As long as someone shows up, they're happy. Sometimes. Yes, sir.
So clarify, two questions, or one observation. The heat treatment that you mentioned is raising the temperature of the entire apartment to above the 120, 25 degrees.
Yeah, usually one room at a time. Some companies will have these heaters that have these what do you call them, like these plastic tubes, and they can be separated like this, and you can do 2 rooms at a time. But I mean, it takes a good hour to get that heat up to 125 because it has to be every corner of the room. Because if you have one corner that's under that, they'll survive. And then you'll be cleaning up and walking out the door, and then I'll be calling you as the landlord a week later going, still got activity. And that's why I don't like the heat treatments, because there's no residual.
And also why it's so expensive.
And also why it's so expensive. Yes, sir.
So going back into the monthly service, if we're a landlord and we want to have monthly pest control, and we wanted to contract with your company as an example, for roaches, bed bugs, rats, kind of an all-in-one coverage.
Sure.
What can we expect if we're trying to underwrite a property and decide, can we afford to buy this property? How much do we set aside for monthly maintenance?
Well, again, I didn't really want to talk about our pricing because it depends. But I will tell you, first of all, we don't contract bed bugs with any other pest, completely separate. So if you call us, our quarterly service or our monthly service is called Healthy Home. We call it a Healthy Home plus bed bugs, or a Healthy Home just in general for general insects. So if you are concerned about the bed bugs, I gotta tell you, usually it's not that high. I want to say, especially if you're not having any activity, it's being proactive. Between $35 and $50 a month.
For the entire complex?
No, per unit.
Right. Oh, wait.
And that would cover us kind of a blanket coverage for.
Right, that would include all pests plus bed bugs.
Okay.
If you don't have the plus on there,
Okay.
bed bugs gonna fall on me and I'm not treating for them.
A follow-up to that is, do we then need to make sure that we have a specific line in our lease that says you must allow us into the unit every month for pest?
Absolutely, that's what, like I said, that's what's in the ordinance. It says if we set something up, if we show up, they have to let us in. If they don't, you're gonna get a report that says, we showed up, the client said not today. Now it's on you to get it rescheduled, and I'll tell you right now, if we show up multiple times and they keep refusing, I'm tearing the contract up and saying, go find someone else, because I'm not, my tenants or my technicians make money on what they do. If they're showing up to do a service and we can't get a service in, I've wasted his hour, half hour, whatever it may be, of money when he could have been making money in another account.
And does it need to be monthly, or is it quarterly? How does that-
I believe it could be both. You can ask for both, or you can say I prefer, especially if they're not having a lot of activity, it makes sense to only have it quarterly. But if it, let's just say again, you do quarterly, and after a couple months go by, you call and say, hey, they said they saw a couple. We'll come out, we'll treat it, no extra charge. Then all of a sudden, a couple months later, you're calling us again. We're gonna come to you and say, you know what, it might be a good idea to go monthly, because they're obviously bringing them back in, reinfesting them, or maybe a neighborly unit has them. But again, as the licensee, you might have to have a discussion with the neighbor.
And I don't favor subject matter, but when we're dealing with all pests, rats being, we talked about bed bugs, and I asked you, is that the number one pest? No, rats are the number one pest, bed bugs are number two.
Pretty much, yeah.
So what does a monthly service look like? Are we just doing external rat traps, the big black boxes, or are we also doing something specific in the?
We offer both. If some people aren't seeing rats inside their building, but they're seeing them in their yard or in the thing, we offer an exterior only service. What that means though is we're only contracted to take care of the outside. We'll treat the stations, we'll treat any burrows that come up, and we'll also inform you of any conducive conditions that may be why rats are on your property. Please understand, we can't control a rat walking down an alley, pop in your yard. For whatever reason, that's gonna happen. But if you sign an agreement with us for inside and out, then we definitely go inside. If you have multiple units, again, there's a lot to this. This is where a sales guy comes in handy. He'll say, if you want us in every unit, here's the price. If you want us to do through, maybe you only got a couple, maybe you got a 20 unit building, but only 3 of them have problems. You might say, okay, let's do up to 5 requests of service. And the prices are going to change at that 5. So that's really a question for the sales guy if you have us come out and talk to him. Because we try to fit the service to your needs.
Do you have recommendations for best practice? If you have, you're buying a building, you realize I've got a lot of complaints about rats. I don't necessarily have evidence, but I want to be proactive. I don't want litigation. So I'm going to put up, I would assume at a minimum, I'm going to have a monthly service. I'm going to put up perimeter boxes. And is there other things that you would recommend that we would want to do?
One of the things that we look for is structural issues. Does anybody here know how much room a rat needs to get into an opening? Okay, I usually go by the measurement, 1/2 inch. A mouse needs 1/4 inch. People look at rats and go, oh my God, look how big it is. That's all hair. If they can fit their skull in, which their skull is really small, the rest of the body will follow. So with that being said, one of our jobs as a professional is to try and look for areas, and usually our sales guy does this first. He'll look for areas that are conducive to them entering your building. We will give that to you in writing and say, you have a door sweep in the back that's got a big chunk of it missing, or your garage door doesn't lay flush, or you might have a crack in your foundation. We'll look at it and we'll let you know. That's now your responsibility. There are some small openings that we'll seal for you, but we're not carpenters, so we're gonna do a little bit of that, not a lot. We look for sanitation issues. Why are the rats in my yard? Well, because you got dog poop all over your yard. That's a meal, man. That's good eating for a rat. That's a buffet. We'll say, clean up the dog crap. It'll keep the rats from at least being drawn to your yard. Rats, when they walk, and mice too, they constantly piddle. They're always urinating. They're not urinating because they gotta go to the bathroom. They're urinating because that's how they communicate. And they're leaving a pheromone trail saying, hey guys, I found food. And it's gonna go right from the alley, right through your yard, right to your front door. So anything in the yard that's gonna be attractive to them, they're letting every rat know that walks by that property. Come on in, guys, the water's fine.
So on a monthly service, do you guys take pictures or send a report?
We don't usually send a lot of pictures, but we have been known to do that, like especially if we're like, hey, this has been going on. You got to fix this. And if you request pictures, by all means, just say, hey, when your guy comes out, if he finds anything, have him send me a picture. That's right there on the service note. Send pictures to this email, and we'll get them to you. Sir. Are you asking how long they'll be there, or how long service? I couldn't hear all of it. We're back to bed bugs. They can be, yeah. A bed bug will live up to 12 months in ideal conditions without food. So just imagine you've gone 9 months. Hell, imagine gone 9 days without food. Somebody throws a burger across that room, you're going after that burger. Well, we're the burger. And if it's been 9 months and they got food, they're going to come out like that. Especially if you sit still for a short amount of time. So yeah, they can live in ideal conditions up to a year. In all practicality, honestly, it's 3 to 6 months. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir.
Like to get back on the other question. So let's say you find a property which you know is infested, but it's vacant, you find it for some reason you find it as a good deal, you want to buy it. But then you go for the inspection and you just want to get an idea of the property. You enter the property. Would you recommend to wear some kind of like a hazmat suit or something, or you just go there for 10 minutes quickly and come out and safe?
If you're uncomfortable, you can go to any hardware store and get a Tyvek suit. You put them over your regular pants. They zip up from about the waist up. Some rubber gloves. I've been doing this for 23 years. I've never taken a bug home with me. And the other thing I would recommend is if you do go to a place that you're unsure of, first thing you do is find yourself a mirror, pop your collar. The one time I almost took a bed bug home with me, I was doing a hotel. I don't know what made me do it. I popped my collar and it was sitting right there under my collar. I was like, I'm glad I did that. Another thing, if you're unsure, as soon as you get home, especially if you're married to a woman like I am, change in the garage. Put the clothes right in that dryer and don't come in this house until you're naked. Well, again, a shower won't do much.
At the minimum, you can have any, throw everything in the dryer.
Yeah, if you have any concerns, throw it in the dryer for 20 minutes. Sir. Well, you're right, but don't forget, if it's a multi-unit housing, bed bugs are hitchhikers. They have little bitty hooks on their hands, so if you want to call them hands. And what they'll do is they'll actually stand at the end of a table or edge of anything, and as you walk by and brush it, they hook it. And then that's how they get on you. That's how they get into your. You guys remember the big Allstate headquarters in North Lake? That place was infested in one area because people were bringing bed bugs in their computer bags. And they were spreading because the bed bugs were coming out during the day and people were walking along and it happened. They're hitchhikers. That's how they get from point A to point B. That's why I was talking about the buses, taxi cabs, hotels. They're hitchhikers. Sir, you had a question?
No, so back to the, like, you know, the dryer that actually goes to bed bugs. So like, let's say they have a t-shirt that's with bed bugs. So we have killed before in the dryer.
Absolutely.
Let's say someone puts the washer first, better, then goes to the dryer. Is there a risk of that washer now?
It's a good question, and I don't think they can live underwater. So probably not. But again, the eggs, if there's an egg, let's say that shirt was sitting on the floor for 3 months, the guy's a slob. And then he picks it up and goes, oh, I gotta go wash this. That egg might survive. That's why the heat is most important. And again, if we're talking about using a commercial laundry, I try to save the tenant money. Don't worry about the washing. Go to the dryer. Yes.
So in the larvae, in the first day, is there an exoskeleton?
Yes. Yeah. Once they hatch on the egg, they have a skeleton.
Until that skeleton, that exo skin is penetrated by water, they wouldn't,
Right,
theoretically,
right.
for a period of time.
But the babies, the adults, again, they breathe like us. They don't have like gills or anything, so they're not gonna survive very long in the water. Like you have a question? Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? If you guys want to talk about anything else besides bed bugs for a minute, as long as they're okay with it, I'm willing. Or if you want to talk to me separate, I'm more than willing to do that as well. Yes, sir.
Another question, I mean, like, just to summarize based on the questions and the lot of information you have given, like, you know, like a nice science class for me, which is good. So what I'm understanding as a landlord, the preventive measure, one, as you was asking, have like a monthly or quarterly preventive, kind of inspection services as mentioned, and you offer, right? And then every now and then, if a tenant complains, then we definitely send them under the 10 days as per the law.
If they complain, that's for the 10 days. If you just want to do it, there's no time limit.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, I want to have a preventive measures not to have any issues later on, but in spite of that, the tenant calls, then I have to make sure I adhere to that call under the 10 business days or 10 days.
Right.
10 days, so that should kind of take care of more or less every.
The legalities, yes. Yeah, and like I said before, if there are, because one of the questions I try to ask, we have a care center and they're supposed to ask this, sometimes they don't do it right. I always ask, do you live in a multi-unit? Yes. Are you a renter? If they say yes, I cannot talk to them because they're not paying the bill, they're not scheduling this. And I don't want them to say, oh, I let somebody know 10 days ago. But you didn't let the landlord know. So from Rose's standpoint, and most, like I said, I've worked for several pest control companies, some of the biggest ones in the world. They all pretty much say, if you're a renter, call your landlord because they do need to be involved. They do need to know. If they own their own unit, we'll listen to the owner. But I always try to ask them, well, do you guys go through a property manager as best we can? Sometimes the property manager, especially if we have a contract with the property managers, even if they don't want to notify you, I will call you and say, hello, Mr. Property Manager, your tenant in this building, at this, call to let us know that they think they have bed bugs. I want to let you know because you may have your own pest control provider. They don't know it because trust me, that gets pretty tricky too when we show up and the company with the big red diamond shows up and you're looking at each other going, why are you here? Well, the tenant called me. Why are you here? The property manager called me. Well, the guy from the property management company gets the job because property manager is the one hiring him, not the tenant. The tenant can say, no, I don't want the big red diamond. And then we're more than happy to come back in. But that's why it's really important for that communication between the provider and the licensee. Yes, sir. No, like all insects, the breeding cycle is slower in the winter. But we get most of our complaints from commercial facilities like restaurants, libraries, schools during the winter. It's because people haven't been home, they're putting on all these layers of clothing. Then they go to school, they go to the library, they've got them under the, they got a jacket, a vest, and 3 shirts. Somewhere there's a bug. And they don't know it, and they're bringing. So we get more calls in the winter at public places than we do at home. But usually Chicago is not what it once was as far as weather. We get calls for every insect, roaches, mice, ants, except for bees and flies. We don't get many calls for them in the winter. Other than that, it's year round.
All right, you guys, let's give Joe a big round of applause.
Thank you. I have business cards over there if you want to deal with Rose, but like I said, I'm not here to sell my wares. There's ink pens with our phone numbers, there's magnets, there's chip clips. Grab anything over there that you want.
So,